everyone, it's Maddie.
And me, and today we're going to be reviewing The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James.
This is already one of our favourite books of the year, so we can't wait to talk about it more. And also this evening we're going to the launch event, so there'll be some clips of that towards the end of this video.
The Loneliest Girl is about Romy Silvers, who is the only person on a ship travelling to a planet that is supposed to be similar to Earth.
She's in contact with her counsellor, but when that email line goes down and she hasn't heard from her in a while, she starts to wonder if something's gone wrong. Then she gets a message that a second ship is catching up with her as it's going at faster speed.
And on board is a teenage boy that she might fall in love with. I'd say that the blurb is all part of the marketing to make you think it's one thing so that you can be pleasantly surprised by what you read. This book crosses so many genres, it's guaranteed to appeal to lots of people.
The most unique thing about this book is that it's solely focused on Romy as a character. You're completely in her head.
And because the cast of characters is so small, and for the majority of the time, as Maddie said, it is just one person, there's not a lot of dialogue, which you might be tentative to read because normally dialogue is everyone's favourite thing, but it doesn't drag. It's not a slow book. It's only 290 pages and you'll probably get through it in one sitting. You'll not want to put it down.
You can definitely tell that Lauren's books are getting better and better and her writing is becoming more accomplished as we read her debut, The Next Together, and the sequel to that, The Last Beginning, but this is definitely our favourite of hers. And I think that's mostly because I was completely with Romy at all times.
Yeah.
I trusted who she trusted and I felt nervous when she did, and so it was really atmospheric that way.
So you know that Romy's parents died, but you're not entirely sure why or how. And that's one of the mysteries that slowly unravels throughout the book.
It's really creepy and atmospheric, and I feel like the right amount of information is given to you at the right points. There's never a moment where you're thinking, I really need to know this right now.
I'd say your want for knowledge in general in this story like creeps up on you. You don't realise the stuff you want to know and then it's just given to you.
And also you think you can guess what's happening, but then there'll be a twist where Romy has a nightmare and you think it's real, or she has like a flashback and you're not sure if she's just remembering it differently. So it's really exciting to see what actually happened.
Even though it is set in space, it doesn't really read as a sci-fi book. If you're not into the inner workings of spaceships, then you don't have to worry, because all of the math and science is explained in a really simplistic way that's easy to understand.
Romy's communication with the boy on the other ship is obviously a huge part of this story, so you get emails and transcripts and Skype calls, and also snippets of the fan fiction she writes from her favourite show, Loch and Ness. If you're a fan of additional quirky things as part of your prose, then this is great, but don't worry, it's not used too heavily or too expositionally.
The Loneliest Girl in the Universe builds incredible tension. I was on the edge of my seat, and because it's so atmospheric, I felt like I couldn't be in the room by myself. Maddie read it first and I read it after her, and I had to have her on the phone whilst I was reading one scene because it was just too creepy.
I think the first half and the latter half of this book feel like two different stories, just because there's a very definitive point where things change for Romy and you know you can't really go back.
But that's all because the stakes are increasing. It's not like jarring. You don't feel like these are two different books.
Yeah, it's a very natural change and the right progression for the story. There's definitely more thriller vibes in the latter half and it feels so cinematic. It's like it was all playing out in my head while I was reading it.
So even though on the front of the ARC copy it says, can you fall in love with someone you've never met, never even spoken to, someone who is light years away, it's really not a romance for the most part of it, and I think that was the most exciting thing to understand. It's really about Romy becoming stronger and also coming to terms with her past, because that's a real shadow, but it's full of like light and quirky moments where she's just exploring the ship and doing her regular routine.
Yeah, that's almost my favourite part, the survival aspect of it, because that's something we haven't really talked about, but there are scenes where she has to deal with rationing her food and changing the oxygen supply levels and the lighting just so that she doesn't run out of power, and I found that really interesting.
If you liked The Martian, the movie or the book, then this will also probably appeal to you.
And there's a classic castaway scene where she has to perform her own dentistry, which these kind of books aren't complete without.
So it's safe to say that The Loneliest Girl in the Universe has been one of our favourite books of the year so far. It was such a surprise. And Lauren even said that there's the potential for a sequel. Not next year, maybe the year after, but hopefully she writes it because I really want to find out what happens to Romy next.
We gave this book 5 stars and really couldn't recommend it more. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video, and stay tuned if you want to see clips from the launch. All glittery. Definitely an everyday look. So Lauren has this book that people are signing as they come in.
So this book was inspired by a piece of coursework that I did when I was at university, and it was a physics coursework question about a spaceship, and like you said, about time dilation, which I had to explain to you quite a few times. And it was about, if a spaceship launches from Earth, it'll travel close to the speed of light, and the people on board the ship will age differently because of that, because of Einstein's theory of special relativity. I'm not going to go into the science too much. And if a second spaceship is launched from Earth at a faster speed, the person on board will age at a different speed because it's even closer to the speed of light. So when the spaceships catch up, if they're twins, they'll be at different ages. So I read this question and I was like, really, like, I didn't really enjoy the physics and the calculations, but I kept thinking about these two people, because how annoyed would you be if you spent your whole life on a spaceship only to find out like that a faster spaceship is going to catch up with you and make your life's work pointless? So I kept thinking about this person and what that would be like, and that was where Romy came from. The book contains lots of messages going back and forth from Earth to these spaceships, and so I had to have spreadsheets of like I think it was like 3,000 lines of calculations of the time that each message would take to get back and forth. And it had to be accurate because someone might check. It's described as a romantic thriller, which means that it's like really scary, and when I was writing it I kept having nightmares that I would imagine like I was on a spaceship, like being chased basically, and so I hope none of you have nightmares when you read it, but if you do, I've done my job well, so I'm not like I'm not that bothered. Romy is alone on a spaceship, and one of the things that she struggles with most is that she has to be in charge of looking after the spaceship and making sure nothing happens to it, because if it breaks then she dies, and also she lets down NASA, which is probably worse. So she struggles a lot with the panic. So this is her first chapter, is a little bit about that. The panic. So this is her first chapter, is a little bit about that. Days since the Infinity left Earth, 6,817. I'm reading fanfiction in my pyjamas when I hear a nightmarish sound, the emergency alarm. Pulling an oxygen mask out of the nearest wall panel, I sprint to the helm with my heart in my throat. There's a glowing red message on the screen, which reads, Asteroid collision imminent. Automatic trajectory adjustment failed. Engage manual control. I'm abruptly filled with complete and utter fear. The guidance system has crashed. I need to take manual control, otherwise we're going to be hit by an asteroid within the next few minutes. For what must be the millionth time, I wish that Dad was here to help. I try to calm down, taking slow, steady breaths as I tell myself that I'm brave and strong enough to do this, and even if that's not true, I have no choice but to do it anyway. There's no time to panic, no time to do anything except go. My attention narrows. This is something I've practiced. I've been in simulations using force propulsion to minutely adjust the course of the ship since I could count. Dad trained me to operate the emergency program in case there was a problem that he couldn't take control of himself. He joked that if there was ever an emergency before 7 AM, I would have to deal with it because he wasn't giving up his lie-in. I do exactly what I practiced in the simulations and use the joystick to line up the thrusters with the propulsion metrics on the screen. The Infinity is travelling too fast to slow down much, but a minute adjustment of direction is all that's needed to make sure the asteroid misses us, if only by an arm's length. I check and agree to the trajectory angle calculated by the computer and initiate the adjustment. I watch the screen, waiting. Outside the ship, precious fuel is being used to shoot nanoparticles into space. The force of the blast into the vacuum of space will turn the ship and change the trajectory, or at least it's supposed to. I have no idea if it's working. If for some reason the propulsion thrusters don't work, or they respond too slowly, we could fly right into the asteroid. I just have to hold on and hope the ship can move in time. Minutes pass. Eventually, when I've long since started to brace myself for bad news or a horrific explosion, the alarm dies down and the screen clears. Collision avoided. I sigh in relief. By the time the asteroid nears the Infinity, our course will have been adjusted just enough that we narrowly pass each other. I run to the nearest porthole to watch, hopping from foot to foot. It's coming too close, impossibly close. Glimmers of metal catch the light in the rough, uneven surface of the rock. Its shadow reaches me first, passing over the porthole and casting me into darkness as the asteroid approaches. For a second, I think that the computer must have calculated the angles wrong. It looks like the asteroid is flying directly at the Infinity. It's going to crash straight into the fragile hull of my ship, crushing everything in its path. It's going to destroy me. It's going to... Every single muscle in my body tenses in panic, a tight knot spreading from my neck down my spine as I brace for the impact. I watch, wide-eyed, as the asteroid flies past the bulkhead in a graceful swoop. There is no explosion, no crush of metal as the ship disintegrates against the rock. Instead, there's a wonderful silence as the side of the asteroid fills the porthole for 2 heartbeats. There's just enough time for me to see craters in the dull brown rock, marks left from millions of years of impacts. The breath leaves my lungs without me noticing. Then the asteroid is gone, disappearing in the wake of the ship, falling off into deep space once more. I throw my head back and spin in a circle, overwhelmed with joy. I did it. I managed to control my worrying long enough to get the job done. I knew what to do, and I did it. It's only when the asteroid is a speck in the darkness, hidden among the bright stars, that I realise I've developed a raging headache.
So we just came out of the launch of The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James.
It was great fun, we met loads of wonderful people, and hopefully we'll be invited back next year for whatever else she has published.
We've got this glitter makeup on, which will never come off, ever, probably. And now we've just got the long trek home.
We'll see you on the next video, guys. Bye!